Well, hello, my CNC brothers and sisters. It is our regular Wednesday night CNC hangout, and we got me, Garrett, with IDC Woodcraft, and our fabulous epoxy girl and CNC girl, Kate, Women Who CNC. Say hi, Kate.
Hi, y'all. How's everybody doing tonight?
The funniest part about this is we talk every once in a while. We got to do a smoother introduction, and I always screw it up on us.
No. We just have fun, I mean, it's just life's crazy. You're getting busier. I'm getting busier. And it's just like, I feel like it's just going to be what it's going to be for a minute. So, I think we really need to look back. I was looking at the dates. I think we need to look back and figure out when our first CNC Hangout Live was, not when we did the interviews and me being the mentee, but our very first CNC Hangout. And we need to mark that date because I'm pretty sure we're coming up on, I want to say 10 or 11 months.
Right. So, I think you're right.
It's getting
Yeah. So, brothers and sisters, tonight we got a very special guest, Rob Shuster, who has an extremely creative spirit when it comes to CNC, which you will find out. This is the kind of guy that does one of those, gets that little idea and says, I wonder if I can do that. And then he goes and does it. And he ended up building his own CNC machine that cuts drums, and we'll learn about that here, but he carves his own drums on the outside. So we'll show some pictures here in a little bit after we get Rob on board. But of course we have our house rules and the stuff that we got to cover before we get rocking and rolling. So that falls on our sister Kate here to do that and give the hellos, and then we'll do a couple of announcements, and we'll bring Julianne on board briefly to say hi, the girl in the background. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, so as most of all of you know, but for anyone who is new, we have a lot of questions that come in, especially for our special guest. And so we like to be mindful and try to get as many questions answered as possible. But we do have a cutoff time of 9 p.m. So if you want to get those questions answered, please make sure you post those now. Our lovely Julianne in the background is going to be starring those questions. So I will give this little bit of preface warning, if you will, because Rob is a special guest. If we see the same question asked twice, then we've already asked and answered it. We will just kind of move on from that question, just so we don't have a lot of repeat and we can keep answering as many questions as we can. So with that being said, of course, as you all know, on IDC Woodcraft YouTube channel or on the Women Who CNC YouTube channel, we do not allow any type of negative bullying, ugly comments, things of that. So as I always like to say, be a kind and good human being and just be gentle with your words. It's okay to disagree with people, but not okay to be ugly. So with those rules now out of the way, we can do our fun thing. And Garrett, who was our number one for tonight?
I don't know. That's got to go to Julianne. So we're going to bring her out. The famous person in the background who's keeping everything organized, keeping Kate and I in line. So, Julianne, who is number one?
Well, yesterday it was Mark Lindsay, and then when I checked this morning, it was Brian Neighbor. So,
all right. Okay, so we got Mark and Brian.
Congratulations to you both.
Yeah. We still got to come up with some kind of boo-boo prize. I'm still thinking the reject M&Ms, man. We'll just send those out. Nah, it's got to be something. It's got to be something good. Then they'll all come racing to the thing.
Yeah. That's a few.
So this is Julianne. Yep, this is Julianne. She'll keep things going in the background for us and make sure your questions are started. Like Kate said, ask your questions. Put a big question mark in front of your questions so Julianne can catch that easily, and we'll get on to that. So thanks, Julianne. And so Kate and I work in the background, always try to figure out who we're going to bring on board. And so we've got several people over the next few weeks. Tonight we have Rob Shuster, which we're going to bring on just a moment after a couple of other announcements. And then next week we got Laney. All right. And then the following week we have Long Mill. The guys from Long Mill are coming on. So they can talk about the new alt mill, and they'll talk about the super longboard that they've developed. And I was talking to them yesterday, and they showed me what the super long board is capable of. Basically, it'll make your machine run twice as fast. So I'm kind of curious now to have that thing run, and it's got a lot of other capabilities. So, all right. Let's get to the calls to action and anything that Kate wants, and we'll say hello to everyone. First of all, if you guys are enjoying what we do, if you take a moment to leave a review for IDC Woodcraft on Google. So Google recognizes reviews and brings the stores up if you get a lot of good reviews. So if you feel like what Kate and I are providing to you, take a minute and review IDC Woodcraft. Julianne will throw a link in the comments. And on that note, every time I ask Julianne to do something, you all have to have a drink. Mark started that thing off, and so now it's not only a CNC hangout, it's a drinking CNC hangout.
Yes, drinking of your choice. It does not have to be alcohol. We're just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, yeah,
so.
For sure. And also, version 12 of VECTRIC has come out. And there's a lot of people are wondering what's going on with it. What are the new things? Mark Lindsay did a live the other day, which was very good, very thorough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watched that whole thing, and it showed a lot of the things that they've done. But also I talked to Kyle Ely of Learn Your CNC. And Kyle's the one that creates the master course for VECTRIC. And he and I are going to do, and if Kate can come on board, because I haven't talked to her about it yet, but we're going to do a special show next Tuesday to talk about version 12 and what's been added to it, what they've modified, and all that good stuff.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. We don't have a time yet. We're still working that out, but we're expecting it to be Tuesday. I will send an email out. So there we have it with that. Those are my announcements. Other than I was going to send out an email about the calipers that are coming out. We're doing the golden ticket thing. And so those on the CNC Insiders, if you are on the Insiders list, you will be first to be notified when these come out. And you will have the discount that you get with IDC Woodcraft. And we are doing the golden ticket thing. So there will be 10 golden tickets, and there's going to be a nice big shopping spree in for those tickets and some other bling that we're working on pulling together. So that's where we're at with that. All right, Kate, say hello to our brothers and sisters, call some of them out, and then we'll bring Rob on board.
All right. Well, let me see if I can get all the way back up to the top here. It's been a minute. All right. So I see Dan, Darren, we've got Mark, and of course, Mark Lindsay. It looks like Alistair, Brian, Ellen is also known as Madra. She's one of a very, very good, one of my very good friends and excellent woman who CNCs. So if you guys see Madra in there, her name is Ellen. She's fantastic. Let's see, we have Bill's Woodworks, Dale, Russ, and of course, Mark Lindsay is on here. You guys know he's fantastic. So make sure to say hi to Mark in the comments. We have Brooks Martin. Let's see. Bud, Billy, Axeman, Eric, Ray Russell, Jim Pitts, Eric, I think I already said Kurt, Alan. There's just all kinds of seeing some new people on here. I'm just trying to kind of scroll and see and make sure I don't miss anybody. Looks like John. And I don't want to go too much further because I don't want to keep Rob sitting in the thing there in the queue. But hello to everyone. I would normally go a little further and do more personalized hellos, but we have Rob here and we do not want to keep him hidden in the background anymore. So welcome, everyone, and a special welcome to you if you are new and first time to the show. So glad you could join us.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's bring Rob on board. So, hi, Rob.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. So Rob has a YouTube channel, and we will link that in the comments. And it's also going to be in the description. So Julianne will take care of that. So it's time to take a drink. And so, Rob, you have created some pretty incredible and unusual things that in your woodworking journey, which is I don't know where you came up with that. You mind if I show a few people pictures first so they can kind of say, wait, what does this guy do? So I'm going to bring that up, and I just got to find my pictures. Uh-oh, not coming up. Yep, I'm going to have to relaunch the pictures. So what folder is that in? Right there. Okay. Well, as we're doing that, why don't you just give us a little bit of background story on you? What got you into CNC?
I've always been the guy who goes out and tinkers in the garage and tries to make stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of things don't work out. But the CNC was one of those projects I started that actually worked out. Showing my favorite stuff here, all these great drums. And gosh, 10 years ago, I got started with CNC. There was a YouTube series out there. You can build a CNC on a shoestring budget. And I had 2 kids in college. That's my old Triumph TR8 right there. That's got me started too.
That is.
Yep, that was my old Triumph. That's my sports car. That
You
wood
cut
dash
out
there.
the dashboard.
Yeah, I built that wood dashboard. I did that by hand to start with. Then I started sewing those on the side, making those by hand with I had a template and a bit with a belt bearing to follow the edge, and I was cutting those out by hand, and they were good. But I finally, with the profits from that, that's how I bought my CNC, the parts for my CNC I built.
Okay.
And took some time developing that tool path for that. That was my first major tool path. And from that, it was 10 times better than I could do by hand, obviously.
Right.
And eventually I got to the point where it was the car or the CNC, because I kept taking up more and more space in the garage. And the car got sold about 7, 8 years ago.
Aw.
It's the only time for so many hobbies. And
That's a fair
but
point.
anyway, I was about 10 years ago, I started building that. I built my own first CNC, that kit, for, not a kit, free plans from Dave Gatton. He's kind of my original mentor on CNC stuff. But Mark Lindsay and I both actually built the same machine at the same time. And it was a pretty active web group there. And that's how I started talking to Mark years ago.
Yeah.
And I kept modifying that machine and modifying that machine and modifying it. So I still call it that, and the bed is still that, but everything else I've replaced. The full gantry's been redone, the Z plate, everything's different now. But I still call it my shoestring, even though it's not really anymore.
Right.
Right.
Did that morph into your drum making machine?
No, I have 2 full machines.
Okay.
And it's right there, right behind me there. But I can turn the camera around a little bit. But it's a nice plywood machine. I know you said stuff about plywood machines a while back, and to a point I agree with that. But also, it's 3/4 inch plywood, and I've got a lot of reinforcements. So I feel it's a pretty good machine for plywood. And that one too. If you look at like all the cross braces. I mean, plywood obviously can wiggle a little bit back and forth, but I put a plate on it, on the sides, then it won't wiggle. So it's strong, obviously, this way, and it's reinforced. It's a pretty sturdy machine. I can push it. I think I have the speed 240 inches per minute as my max. And I don't go that fast really, but I can, and it doesn't. I don't know. It's possible, but I don't want to push it too hard, scare myself.
Right. Yeah. So you now are your YouTube channel is SideWinder Drums, right? So is that kind of what you focus on in the CNC world now?
It's about 50-50, whatever I feel like. And I treat it 100% as a hobby. I mean, yes, I want to sell the stuff in the end because I got a garage full of stuff. Or our guest bedroom has about 10 drums in it right now. My wife has mentioned that we need to get rid of some drums before I get more. And
I don't know why. I mean, 10 just seems like a very round number.
Yeah, well, that's how I can start. One stack floor to ceiling. That's 10 drums. So, but
and
at least they're all, they're all vertical.
Yep. And gosh, my rotary CNC machine, when I first built it, it was not perfect. It's not perfect now by any means, but I keep improving it. I like tweaking and venting and stuff. And it was not as rigid as it needed to be when I first did it. For skimming the outside of a drum, just rounding a drum, it did great. But once you start carving into things, and the tolerances weren't good enough. It was just it wasn't. There's slack. There's some slack in there. So
Yeah, so I saw a video of yours where you made your Monopoly board, the epoxy inlay Monopoly board. That thing was super, super detailed. So this is just some of the variety that you do. How long did that project take you?
Oh gosh, it was kind of two halves because I did it's all puzzle pieces, the base,
Yeah.
and that part. I've liked doing puzzle pieces. I've done a lot of drums with puzzle pieces and that thing with puzzle. I just like doing puzzle pieces for some reason. I've kind of evolved that way. I
Right.
probably put, I'm going to guess 20 hours into building the first, just the base, the board.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that's just drawing it up and getting it right and doing some test pieces to get it fit right. And once I did that, then I'm going to guess, gosh, epoxy is hard to say because you carve something and you fill it with epoxy. You wait 24 hours, you do a little more, carve, wait 24 hours. So if you add all the time together, it probably wasn't 15, 20 hours total, but I left it on the machine the whole time. So my machine was out of action for probably 2 weeks doing that because
Wow.
And I just know it's level. I don't like trying to find the exact zero again, scares me a little bit. I know I can do it, but
When you're
again,
working
it's a
with
hobby.
those
I'm not
delicate, like little, because I remember, I don't know. You sent me an email really early on and you showed me a picture of it. And I was like, wow, that is incredible. I couldn't believe it. But I know exactly what you're saying about the epoxy and the inlays and all, like trying to find that exact spot. Because I mean, you were working with like the names of like Park Place and all the different little places. So it was like, if you were off just like a hair,
that's it. It doesn't look quite right. So
Mhm.
I'm sure I could have made it work probably, but why? It's a hobby. I'm not a production shop by any means. If I'm doing one, usually one project, maybe two at a time, but it's not like I'm spending 40 hours a week out here and have to get things off the machine. I work when I want to work on it. It's no schedules, no deadlines. I refuse to do that. I know Garrett pushes the entrepreneurship, and I think like an entrepreneur, but I refuse to do it just for the money. I mean, I know I could make some money on it, but
Yeah.
that's the other thing. When every project is kind of a one-off thing, everything's a prototype, and you spend a lot of time on a prototype, getting it, figuring out the process, all these things. If I was going to do 10 of them, I'm sure I could do it a lot faster, but I think I'd get bored with it too. And it's still time consuming. I don't think I can sell a Monopoly board for $400 a piece.
Right.
Whereas a top-end drum, I can sell for $400 a piece. So people will pay for a musical instrument.
Yeah. I have two questions really. First of all, do you build your own drums, and what got you started in the drums?
Well, I'm a drummer, or at least I was when I was young. I play in church on Sundays now. That's all I do anymore. But yeah, I was pretty serious about it when I was young. I started college as a music major. So I realized pretty quick it's a great hobby. I didn't want to make it. Again, I didn't think I was quite good enough to be really successful at it. And I knew I wanted to make some drums. And I mean, on the CNC, I'll show it in a little bit, but I have a threaded rod down the middle, and people that like make drums, they cut the individual staves. You think like a whiskey barrel, all the slats that are on the side are staves. You cut an angle so each stave fits together right, no gaps. And then people would put up between the two plates, on the camera, right, between the two plates and spin it over a router table to get it smooth. And I thought, I understood how the CNC worked. I thought I can do just that basic step, automate it with a CNC machine. So when I first had the idea, I was just going to do the most basics, just smoothing out the drum and getting it perfect. And I kept evolving that, okay, I can make that work. Now I can add this next step, and I can wrap the drum, take the gantry off, put the drum over the gantry, and skim the inside of the drum now. And I kept thinking, I can always do one more step. And when I first built this, I didn't think I'd be able to do that dragon design carved into the drum. I mean, I hoped I would, and with the first machine probably couldn't do that. There was too much slop in it, but I upgraded the pulleys, and just where there's slop, I reinforce things, and suddenly I can do things that, well, I don't want to say I'm bragging, but I don't know of anybody else out in the world doing this. I don't know. No one else is doing that, carving things like this in a drum. There's some people in like Indonesia who are hand carving pretty designs,
Right.
That's my favorite
Here's
one
the-
there. That was the very
that's the
first.
drag.
That was the very first one that came out. They did a 3D design that really came out good. I tried a few others before that, but
That's beautiful.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the quilted maple is wow. That was just the wood also set that off.
Yeah.
And so you just took the idea of what people are doing. You said you can automate it. You want to get into drums. You're a musician, and you actually make it out of the staves. And then now you've built this machine that I still look at and going, how I can't make sense of it. Heads or tails. I gotta be able to check this thing out.
I can put the camera on it. We can talk about it more, or do it now or later, whatever I do.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I had that picture of where you did a puzzle. So that's not staves. You had a puzzle.
No, that
drum.
one's
That
There's
is
a
the
lot of
most
steps to that
interesting one to me too. So I'm like sitting here going, I know everybody else has to be really looking at that going, how did that all come together?
There's the first puzzle drum, which is sitting on the floor over here. Yeah, that one. That one's got, I still call them staves. You look up and down, there's 16 puzzle pieces around and 2 tall. So there's 32 individual pieces there. And when I carved it, first I cut out just that joint in the middle that's at a 90-degree angle. So between the white and the black, between the maple, it's roasted maple and maple. They're both maple, but between the light and the dark, that one joint is a 90-degree angle exactly. So I cut all those out, and the right and left side were oversized. I didn't cut the puzzle pieces there yet. So I cut it into then 16 pieces tall, and then I put it on a jig that was, I forget how many degrees, for 16, whatever, 16 divided by 360 degrees divided by 2, whatever that is.
Right.
But I cut a jig. I mean, I cut out one the exact right angle, and I'd clamp the staves on that, and you cut the angle then on the right-hand side, and you flip the other way, so you get the other angle on the other one, and it worked out. It was really one of those things, I wonder if I can do this. And I really had no idea if I could or not when I did it. In fact, the plan on this one was, if I get halfway there, I'll do another one later and make it work.
Uh-huh.
This one actually got to work. The tolerances were incredibly tight. It was too tight, and I actually had to beat it pretty hard with a hammer to get those joints to go together, or a mallet, I guess, not a hammer, but a mallet. But there was a lot of pounding to get that to get it together. It was
But each piece is an individual piece. Then is that correct?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
There's no stain.
And
Well,
then-
there's the epoxy logo there, but otherwise that's all wood with just clear finish on it.
Okay. How do you keep your epoxy from flowing out when you're on a curve?
Well, that's a good question. I spent a lot of time on that. I built a little dam around it, and because it's only one spot there, I built that dam there and filled a little over full on the sides, then you skim it down.
Okay.
I had another drum that I actually did epoxy all the way around, so I don't think I sent that picture to you. The first time I did it, I let the epoxy kind of set up a little bit, and it actually worked pretty well. And then I tried it multiple other times, and every other time after that, it failed miserably. So I've kind of given up on that. I've tried thickeners, trying to get it thicker so it wouldn't run. In fact, I have a test drum on the machine right now. You'll see when it's got epoxy. I tried thickener, but it loses the luster. It's just a dull color then when you use the thickers in it. And I don't know. I've pretty much given up on trying to wrap epoxy around the drum. Now, if it's just one little section of the drum, I can do that. And then, later let it cure and then go to the next section. But wrapping around the drum just didn't work.
So, okay. So, yeah, I'm really interested in seeing your machine. And so 2 things before we start diving into questions and of course, Kate's questions. But one is, I just forgot my question. You sold a drum for $50,000, right?
I didn't sell it. I donated it.
You donated it.
It was a fundraiser.
And it sold
I wish.
$50K.
Yeah, that was Alice Cooper's a local person here in Arizona who everyone thinks of a shock rock guy who's a bad boy. He's actually a really good guy. He supports charities. Arizona loves him, and he has every Christmas he has a Christmas pudding, they call it, as a concert. Brings in Sammy Hagar last year, and different people just and a fundraiser, and they raised money for a children's charity, a music charity for children.
That's fantastic.
And
Yeah.
there are the wealthy people who want to schmooze with Alice Cooper go to this, and they raise millions, literally millions of dollars get raised in this thing every year. And
Wow. That's
I made
awesome.
that drum that, well, you showed it. It was in there. It's at I call it that one, the snake skin. It's got kind of the red snake skin edge on it. And
Is that one of the pictures that I showed?
it was one of the pictures. It's got,
Oh, I'm going to bring it up. Julianne, bring it up, please.
but, and that drum, I when I made it, I had no idea that I'd give it to them, but nope.
Wow.
That's all she had to do. Is that it?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh,
Got to run through them. You got to run through all
I'll
the
tell you when
pictures.
to stop. I'll tell you when to stop.
Yeah.
There, that's it. And
like the snake
that's
skin.
actually 3D shape on the outside, and I don't know, a lot of things unique about that one. I did a whole series on building that drum, but anyway, it got to the point. I talked to them the year before, and they asked, I asked if they'd like a drum, and they actually said, "Well, we're going to talk to you." I'm active at there's a Facebook group for Phoenix drummers. I'm not active in it, but I post in there sometimes. So they knew who I was from that, and they'd said they'd love to have a drum, so I gave them that drum, and I actually did the rims on the outside. I engraved those two on the CNC, which was that's a full YouTube video just making those rims for that thing.
Wow.
But anyway, I donated that drum to him, and it sold for $50,000 in an auction. But to get things straight, you could have put a cardboard box there with a drum head, and Alice Cooper signed it, and it would have sold for, well, not $50,000, but probably $40,000. They were very loose to the money at his event, and they raised a lot of money. So I'd love to see I sold a drum for $50,000, but that's not quite honest. It was not because it was my drum.
Right. How long does it take to cut a drum?
Well, that's a good question. I keep getting more and more complex between the puzzles and things. And I was getting to the point where I was spending 50, 60 hours for a drum from design, concept, everything to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of pulled back and said, I need to do something a little easier. So I decided to do, probably got one there. There was that very first one, but I did some V carving on a drum. You can see that. So I V carved design on it.
Wow.
And the V-carve, obviously V-carving is a lot faster than 3D. And that drum I just showed you there, I did that from the time I mounted on the machine. So skimming the outside, carving the V-carve, and you call it the bearing edges. The bearing edge, you have a rounded edge on there. I have a tool path that rounds that edge. 4 hours from mount to dismount, which that's a lot better. I mean, if I was going to produce and try to sell drums, that's the way to do it. I'm not sure how I want to do that, but if I get to the point where I'm trying to market a drum, that would be much easier to do than a 3D carving, because a 3D carving is probably 15 to 20 hours from mount to take it back off. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. Well, you know how long a V-carve
that would make sense.
How long a 3D toolpath takes.
You're doing 3D all the way around it. That's a large area.
Yeah, well, you multiply it out, it's 40 inches long. So, yeah, it's about 12, depending on what bit I'm using. If I give an 1/8 inch bit, if it's not too detailed, I can use a bigger bit. It's much faster. But if I'm using 16th inch paper ball nose, then it's probably 12 feet an hour.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, well, I want to see your machine. Kate wants to see your machine. I know, but before we do that, just for those who have popped on in the last 20 minutes, so we have brought the special guest Rob Shuster on, and his YouTube channel is Shuster the SideWinder Drums, right?
Right.
Yeah. And Julianne will put a link for his YouTube channel in the description, so we all have to have a drink. And make sure you take a minute to subscribe to his channel and check it out. And so, Rob has some very unique things that he's done with the CNC that most of us don't do, and he's ended up building drums and turning drums on a homemade CNC, which he's going to show us now. So,
ready? Okay.
Yeah.
I will try to move the camera and look at the screen while I'm doing this and not trip over wires.
I think that's the
Okay.
story of every shop owner.
Yeah.
I run Linux CNC as my design software.
Okay.
Okay. And like I say, this is that one. This is actually epoxy that it looks dull. It didn't come out good. I can rotate it here. This is a trash drum that once I messed it up, you're going to see a big hole here where I cut out of the section. I can work with it and play with it real quick and do stuff.
Okay.
I guess you can see how thick it is and stuff there too.
Very, very cool.
So we've got, the x-axis, I'm pointing at this, you can't see your hand. It's traditional, it's just a normal X. And Z is normal, up and down.
Mhm.
And the unique part, well, not too unique, but I'm going to spill my drink if I'm not careful. This is a timing pulley, timing pulley, that's the right word. So you can see that there's a belt there. When I first did the machine, I had a tiny little XL belt, which is a third that wide, and I couldn't find a good pulley to go on the threaded rod.
Okay.
And I couldn't get it was too slack. A tiny pulley and the leverage between the motor. The motor's hidden down here. It's right here. If you can see that. It's too dark back there, isn't it?
Yep, we can see it. We see a bit of it.
Yeah, it's right in there. And I've got a tension pulley on the backside that keeps the belt tight. But anyway, another friend, I was complaining. There's a lot of money to find these timing pulleys, and trying to find something that's 8-10 inches wide and a wider pulley or belt. I really had a lot of problems finding thing. And a friend said, "You've got a CNC, cut one." And at first I thought he was crazy, and then after I thought about it a while, that actually is a good idea. And I cut this timing pulley on my other machine, and it wasn't that hard. It was, an afternoon's work. I cut it twice. The first one was slightly too small. The grooves wouldn't fit in quite right.
Okay.
So I blew it up like 1%. I designed it in V-carve and did it, and it works perfect now. And one of my biggest flaws, I thought I was going to have to spend a couple $100 to get a custom pulley originally, and then suddenly I cut one out of plywood, and it works awesome. So now I've got a stepper motor turns that, and it's the machine moves on wheels, but there's no slack there now. And doing V-carving, put some pressure on it. It's great. Excuse me. It's all mobile. I say, wife's car goes here normally, so my electronics are just right there. They hook on and on the backside, the computer's on the backside here, if you can see that. And this side has the drivers, the power supply. I've got a solid state relay that turns the router on and off automatically. It's a lot of fun. It was my other CNC. I bought a kit for the Raleigh Electronics, and this time I decided to do it myself. And I was scared, but it came out great. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, your whole machine is made of wood, and you've wired this whole thing up. You bought all components, so if you couldn't buy them, you made them. I'll have to talk to you on the side about how you actually worked out that gear. And we're getting some questions in the queue here, so we might need to get going on that one too. What do you say, Kate?
I think that's a great idea. I think most of them we've got a lot of CNC, about the CNC. So do you just want to start there?
Yeah, let's just bring it on. So, but let's wait for Rob to get back on his computer here. So, in the meantime,
camera, the wrong spot.
Yeah, in the meantime, just so you all know, I got version 12, VECTRIC version 12. And they got this new toolpath that they call it the sketch carve toolpath, where I was watching Kyle Ely's course or a video they put out. And I said, this isn't going to work. It ain't going to make a project. but I did the tracing on it, and I actually ran it just a real quick. This picture was generated by AI, and
It's very
and then
cool.
yeah. I just said, well, I took the grandkids out on a go-kart for the first time this year.
Oh,
They got it for Christmas. So I said, okay, kid on a go-kart, and this is what AI gave me. Plugged it into the VECTRIC software, in version 12. Just selected the picture, and then in the toolpath, all I had to do is select the image or the router bit and the kind of the density of how it's going to pick up the picture, and it just generated the toolpath. It was like way too easy, and carved this thing out in about 17 minutes.
Isn't that beautiful? That's so cool.
Yeah. So
Really
I'm running videos. I didn't believe it could do it. So
Yeah.
I created a video. I'm going to launch that video tomorrow.
And it's funny you actually mentioned that, because I actually watched that video today and I was like, what? I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I watched it too. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay. That
Oh, yeah.
makes entry into CNC with the VECTRIC software, just with that one thing, it makes it a lot easier for people who don't understand the software. Not that you
I
still
have a
need to
hard
know
time.
that.
I have a hard time finding artwork for a drum, because to wrap around a drum, it's 40 inches around, and it's 8 inches tall, really about 5 inches usable space. So there is no artwork out there made 40 inches or even 20 if I'm doing half the drum, 40 inches long, 5 inches tall. And this whole idea of, okay, AI creating some artwork for me, taking to VECTRIC and creating a V-carve toolpath that's custom for every user. If somebody comes to me, AI generated artwork, I can put his drum, like I said, a V-carve toolpath, I can do a V-carve drum in 4 hours. Suddenly, I'm thinking like an entrepreneur again. That's very marketable. And I don't know, it's I'm liking the sound of this. I haven't done 12 yet, but I will very soon.
Yeah, it looks really, really pretty cool. So, well, Rob, are you ready for a couple of questions?
You betcha.
All right. So this first one comes from Mark Eldon. What motor do you use for the A-axis?
Same exact motors that I have for the other two. A 425 ounce NEMA 20. What's the number? 21. Not a 17. What's the bigger one than that? 21? 23. 23. NEMA 23. All three motors are the exact same. I just put a pulley on it instead of attach it to a shaft. So.
Okay. Are the motors? Do you have the closed loop system on it or not?
No, but I'm really toying with upgrading to that. I'd always heard, how cool it is, but I always thought you had to have special software to run the whole Linux CNC or Mach, whatever. And then I found out, it's a stepper driver that takes care of most of this, and most programs can run that. And suddenly, I thought it was much more complex than it is. So I'm really toying with going to that. So.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, you're new to CNC, what closed loop and open loop is feedback to the system of where the actual motor position is, how many counts it has made in its motion. It's keeping track of it. So it knows that if it went out of step, that it'll stop. It'll send a signal back. That's closed loop. Open loop it's just sending signals, the motor's turning, and if the motor binds up, the control still is just sending the signal, and you're losing your position.
In the closed loop, it's even smart enough, if it gets behind a step or two, it'll catch back up. So it'll fix an error before it stops if it's a major error, which this is cool.
It's amazing.
I'm a geek. I work IT for my day job. I'm a geek. I know it.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can learn and build on once you have that little bit of just foundation. It's incredible. So, all right. Our next question comes from Dan.
Hey, Dan.
He says, Rob, do you have any experience flattening a 3D model into a 2.5D relief for CNC carving? If so, what do you use to do it?
Flattening a 3D model. Oh, okay. So he means not just a one-sided, but I know what he means, but I don't. When I import it, you can import. Okay, how do I say this? If we import for a rotary project, you can import a full model that is the full circle, everything, or you can do a 2.5D and it'll wrap it around the cylinder. I almost always wrap a 2.5D project relief onto the cylinder. I can show you what I mean if you want me to.
Yeah, yeah. You use VECTRIC software, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, please do a screen share and show us what you're
Pretty
talking
much
about.
exactly what. Let me see. Open a new one. Pretty much exactly. Oh, I gotta share first, don't I? Hold on. Okay, present. Share screen. Whoops. Entire screen. Share. And can you see it?
Yeah, it didn't share the right screen.
Oh,
We haven't pulled it up yet, but it's not sharing the right screen. So
okay.
you have to go.
Okay. Oh, there's only one screen. See, can you see? I'm opening VCarve right now.
Okay.
You see that?
Yep.
Okay.
It's coming. Okay, here we go.
So when I do a new project, everyone normally does one side or double sided. I'm just doing it rotary. And of course, this is resetting. The diameter is always 13.
Will you set him full size, please? All right, go ahead, Rob.
Okay. So for a drum, it's almost always 8 inches, and the diameter is 13.875. It's a 14-inch drum, but it's not really. A drum head is 14 inches, and if you want the drum head to fit on there, it's got to be a little bit less. Otherwise, I wrap around the x-axis. That's all there is to it, setting up a rotary project. And now I've got to find a, okay, there we go. So now I'm going to go to models, and I've got to find a 3D model now. The DXF.
I have done no videos on rotary, and I haven't even done anything on a rotary. I got the long mill vortex, but I haven't installed it yet. Gonna work on that next week.
Hopefully this is a piece of artwork that'll work. I'm just grabbing stuff because, okay, yeah. So that's a flat project. So you've got options. You can, right up here, it says full 3D model. So if like you're doing, you bought a chess piece file, you'd click on that one up here, and you would import that chess piece that way. Whereas I'm wrapping a flat model around the cylinder, that's what I do right there. And otherwise, I tweak that file in Blender to get it just right, because you can't, obviously, we can't do multiple 3D files in VCarve, so I have to use Blender or something like that to combine the models. I think it's already set up basically right. Okay, so let's go to 3D. And that's my next drum, maybe. I've done several dragons. This one's a little different yet, though. Usually I can't wrap it the whole half of a drum. And I spent a lot of time playing that 3D file to get it right.
Okay.
But I'm going to next drum, my next file. And it's easier if I click the button up here, it flattens it back out again. It's easier to look at that way when I'm doing stuff.
Okay. Wow.
I'll V-carve my logo right there eventually, and also some lettering there that wraps around. And that's all there is to importing a flat model around on a 3D cylinder.
Okay.
I mean, I spent a lot of time figuring it out, but now I've got it done it a few times. It's not that bad. If you can import a 3D model, you can import it for a rotary also.
Right. That's super cool.
Yeah,
looks like we. Go ahead.
That's everyone. Everyone assumes it's all radically different doing it on these drums, and it's not really. I'm going to go back to the screen. Maybe don't do that. There we go.
There we go.
It's the same as doing it on a regular CNC. I do a V-carve toolpath. It's almost exactly the same. If you can do it on a regular machine, you can do a V-carve toolpath on a drum. Well, the joinery gets different. You have to work with angles, like I said. But actually, on my regular machine, actually on the front, everyone leaves a gap on the front so it can carve over the edge. Everyone says they're going to put a rotary there, something like that. I had that, but I built a little shelf that I can tilt to get the right angles now. I get a gauge. So that was one of the problems with these puzzle drums or joinery is I had to build a jig every time the right angle to hold it. Now I just have to loosen the bolts and get it right. So maybe I'll do more puzzles or joinery drums later. I made that easier.
Did you do a video on the puzzle drum?
Yeah, I've done 2 different puzzles. Yes, that puzzle drum you showed, I did that one. And I also did another puzzle drum, which I don't know if I sent you the one. That one had 32 pieces. I did another one that had 40 columns and 8 deep. So it had 320 individual pieces.
Okay.
So that one, which once I figured what I was doing, I did that one as fast as I did the other one with 32 pieces. It was a lot of work. And if I was going to automate it, now I have a shelf I can do. And I don't know, it's a lot of cutting, that many pieces. But hey, the CNC's doing it. And I have my camera on the machine. I'm inside drinking coffee and listening and watching on the video. And it's not that bad. And we're getting the summertime. I'm not going to spend as much time in the garage now in the summer. We broke 90 today, so it's warm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's spring, but it feels like summer.
Yeah, we have summer and hot summer. That's the other 2 seasons here. But I like that. I grew up in Wyoming where we had enough cold for a lifetime before we moved here. So
Gotcha.
you don't have to shovel heat. That's all I got to say about it. So.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's tackle our next question here. This is from WXX. And so was this blank as a block or a radial shell?
I always start out with a flat piece of lumber. And most of my drums have 20 staves, unless it's a puzzle drum, but there's 20 slots. And I'll set up my table saw to 9 degrees, and I'll cut each stave, and I get the calipers out. I already have calipers, but I might get a second pair since you're selling them. Because they're always getting lost, as you all know how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And I make sure it's exactly, I know off the top of it, it's 2.21 inches at the top, and I get the 20 pieces. And when I do it together, I've got some. It's not. I don't know what you call it. Hold on.
We're always doing.
Curious.
I have my.
Let me just go get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I have this. It's got a lot of nylon on it. And
Okay.
I'll go around. I've got 3 of these. I'll go around. Loosen it up. Go around the drum. Then I tighten this, which will screw on that and tighten it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. It's 2.21 inches each one with a 90-degree angle on each side, and that'll make a perfectly round drum. And
Nice.
But I've also, because I like to take things to the next level. Can you see inside there the staves? I don't know if you can really see that.
Yeah,
So you can see.
I see
that
him.
wiggly. It's wiggly.
Yeah.
I went down the rabbit hole again, like I like to do. And I built a spreadsheet. I designed just that squiggle line first in VCarve, how I wanted. I saved that as a toolpath where it cut 1 row.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put it to a spreadsheet that I created with some Python in the background. I work IT is my day job. And I work with databases and lots of data and modifying data to get it work with, talk to other things. So it's kind of my work passion is listening to that. So I actually have it cut the stave, and it'll cut the line, and it kind of stair steps down that squiggle shape, and it keeps the right angle. So in a circle, it'll be 9 degrees here, but then the more you go, the angle is greater and greater. Each cut, it changes the angle, so it's hard to explain that. There's a video about that, which is honestly pretty boring if you're not an IT geek. But I did a video on that, and I can do these squiggles. The drums I sent, I have it right here. This drum right here probably shows it off better. You can see the squiggle lines there.
Yeah.
And the CNC, the regular CNC, not the rotary, the XYZ shoestring, cut that. And I think I sent you some pictures. You might have some pictures of staves held down on the spoil board. I don't know if you see that or not. And that's me, how I did that.
I've seen that. You actually sent pictures of that. Let me
Yeah.
get
And
this
again,
down.
it's really cool to me. It might be cool to some woodworkers, but drummers probably don't really care that much. I don't care. I'm doing this for me. I like going down the rabbit hole, figuring things out.
Sometimes that's half the fun, you know?
Yeah. And I'm learning. And again, 6 months from now, I wonder if I can do this. And oh, I did that before. And so I don't know. I look at it like I need to do something. I dig into the depths of V-carve and go really deep and probably do things like it really wasn't designed. Like I said, I'm using my own spreadsheet. Whereas Mark Lindsay, he looks at the whole application. He tries to learn everything about that application. I'm sure there are things. Yeah, that's it exactly. There's probably many things. Well, most things in VCarve, Mark knows much more about than I do. But sometimes I go in that rabbit hole to the nth degree, and there's probably a few areas there I hate to say the word expert, but in a few oddball areas, I'm probably expert. And then there's other areas I don't know a darn thing about it. It's just so. And Mark learns the exact same opposite way. He's learning the whole application. So when I need something, I go to him. But
we've gone to him too. Mark is one of those guys.
Yeah.
Kate spent, I think, Kate, you spent what, 3 hours with him one day when you were trying to troubleshoot that equipment. Mark is very generous with his time to help you through.
Yes. Yes. I have a special something coming for him in the mail. So you should be on the lookout. Yeah. So I just want to kind of bring up something fun really quick. So as you guys all know, last week there was a lot of chatter in the comments about the Mark Adams School of Woodworking. And so Vortex 8, as you guys know, that's David in the chat. He's been, gosh, I feel like he's been with us since we very, very first started this
pretty much
CNC Hangout. Yeah. So he actually sent me an email because we were talking about it last week. I said, send me an email. Let me know when you're going to be there. And I actually got to go out and see him working and learning in the CNC space. He's so, so generous and so kind and was just so welcoming. And he introduced me to one of the other CNC instructors, and I got to see the whole area, and he was just showing me around the school and all kinds of stuff. I'd only been in there once before, but that school is absolutely ridiculous. So if you guys have the opportunity to ever take a class at the Mark Adams School of Woodworking, you definitely should. You should check out their website. The school is phenomenal. I mean, they have literally every single type of woodworking something that you could want to do. It is here I don't know what town or city, because everything's weird out here in Indiana. We cut off on on 900 now, that's whatever. So I think it's out in Franklin, Indiana is where it's actually located. But I mean, honestly, it's really great. But I wanted to show a quick picture, if you don't mind. Let me see here. I was going to show a picture, and this is, can you see that okay?
Yep.
So this is David here. You can see they have a lot of shark machines in the background, all encapsulated. So it was a fun little meet and greet. I love meeting people when they're in the area. I've had a couple of my other one-on-one students. One of them was an airline pilot, and he had a layover in Indianapolis, and he's like, hey, do you want to get together and meet up for lunch? I was like, absolutely. So if you guys are ever in the Indianapolis area and you want to do lunch with me and Garrett, maybe we can meet. We usually meet in Greensburg sometime if we do lunch or breakfast. We meet at this little mom and pop place. It's so much fun. Yeah, but if you guys are ever in the area and you want to do something fun like that, hit us up, send us an email. We're always down to do little meet and greets and hang out with you guys. So I just had to share that little tidbit because that was so fun. And I love that. I love that. It just makes me so happy. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think Rob probably needed a little bit of a break from doing so much talking and telling us all the cool things he's doing. My gosh.
Yeah.
I was sitting here
I'm normally a quiet person, but once I get on a few certain topics, like CNC, I suddenly become a chatterbox.
I know. I'm the same way. I can't. I was saying, David was actually telling me that last night after I was getting ready to leave. We were talking, and he said, I don't know what it is about CNC. He said so many other things in woodworking, like I will just get really frustrated, and I just will like walk away, and I'll just like push that project off to the side. And he says with CNC, it's like can't stop, won't stop. You know, you just keep moving.
It's a passion. It really is. And
It is.
my wife calls it my therapy, though I don't think I need therapy, but she calls it just when I need to relax, I go out and putz in the garage and make something, whatever it is.
Right.
Into that. I'm the same
Now,
way.
what-
My husband's like, are you ever going to come in? I'm like, when I'm done. He's like, oh, great. So I'll see you tomorrow morning. But anyway.
We're getting close to the top of the hour, so you got questions, get them in. If we get to the end of the ones that we've got queued, we will keep on rolling with questions. So you can ask them after 9. Just that's our general cutoff time.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring on some more.
All right. Let's see here. So WXX is asking, A-axis drives next to the work? Question mark.
I mean, the A-axis rotates. I'm not quite sure what the question is. But the A drive is, I don't have a Y drive on that machine. It has A instead. So instead of the machine on the Y going back and forth, it's going around. So it replaces the Y basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not quite sure. The software does all the calculations. One of the weird things, we talk inches per minute all the time. You can't talk in degrees per minute, because if you're doing something that's 3 inches tall or a foot, 14 inches like mine are, degrees per minute, it can't do it. And I actually use the what command is my header of the G code? G94, I think it is, G94.
Oh,
and
really?
the G code for that, I won't pull it up real quick, but instead of having a was it F command for the speed, it actually each movement has I don't know what it is. So there's some character, and it has a time and a seconds or a fraction of seconds, and it tells it how long to get there. So
wow.
I can pull up the G code if you want to see it real quick. But it's again, we're diving into geekiness right here for studying G code. But it's cool, because before I figure that out, sometimes I go incredibly slow, and then it gets expanded with zoom, and it's a good way to break a bit when suddenly you're going 200 inches per minute versus you're going 5 per minute before.
Right.
And I'm not sure if that's something that's Linux CNC I had to do, and it would work okay on Mach or whatever we're using. But for Linux, I really had to do that. I've modified my post processor. I keep adding things to it and adding delays, waiting for things to spool up the router. And so.
That's fair. So I did see on your CNC, so you are running a Makita router. So I have to ask, you said you had 2 other CNCs. Are those have just manual routers on them as well?
No,
or
I have 2 total. I have this one and my regular one. The other one is I have a 1.5 kilowatt water cooled spindle.
Okay.
It's 110 volts. I don't have 220 in the garage. If I had 220, I might have gone to 2.2 kilowatt. It's water cooled. I think because I'm in Arizona, most of the time I think water cooled's overkill. I really think that air is not bad. But in Arizona, and I don't let the heat stop my machine. I'll put a big fan on the electronics so I don't overheat. I've never had a problem. But I think water cooled is the way to go in Arizona if I'm going to run it. So,
well, that was kind of my
well.
next question, where I was kind of leading into, because I know with the Makita, because I've got one on mine, and I was just like, I wonder if the heat ever really bothers that. And then B is, with these long carves that you're doing, I mean, do you normally run them for like, say, a couple of hours, and then you'll turn it off, or what's your process as far as carving the actual drum itself?
On my normal machine, I let it run. I've never stopped it. I don't like to do the long carves in the summertime. I might try it sometime. The only time I had problems with it was not the router. The electronics, I had some problems with electronics. Well, that drum that you saw had the hole cut in the side of it. I lost my 0 for that drum was, I called it the devil drum because it kept going bad. And I finally figured out I had some wood chips got inside my power supply for electronics, and the fan kept turning because there's, and it took me a while to figure out what the heck's going on. Once I figured that out, it worked fine again. But so, and I normally have, I have a little fan here I'm using right now, so it's not too noisy. I have a big honking fan that I'll put on there and blow on there. And wow, got a guy with his stereo going by. That's, I don't know if you can hear it, but I sure can. I would really like to have a spindle on the rotary machine, but I don't know if you can quite see that. But I will wrap a drum around the gantry right here. So it goes around that. I just bolts here and I'll slide it on. And this actually goes inside the drum then. So spindles tend to be tall. And if there was a short, squatty spindle, I would really, if somebody knows of one, send me a message or something. Because if I could find it doesn't have to be, I can't be too big. I don't want a heavyweight something, but around a 1.5 kilowatt to 800 watt. I think that's right sizes. If I found something like that that would fit, that's short and squatty, would fit on there, I might switch over to that. When I got to sell a drum or two to have money to do that. But I would really like to replace that spindle, or with a spindle, but it just, to do the inside of a drum, they're too tall. They just won't work. So I'm locked in at that point.
I don't know which spindle I have, but it's I don't know. I got it. My husband bought it for me from China, and it's about the same height as the Makita. But the weird thing is it's not as strong as the Makita. That's the only like kicker. So I've got that, and I'm just like, it's chilling over here in my box, but I don't even know if you'd want something.
On my regular machine, I used to have a Hitachi. I ran that for quite a few years. And then I'm going to guess 3 years ago, I switched to spindle. And the Hitachi is 2.25 horse, and a 1.5 kilowatt is basically 2 horse. So they should be the same, but the spindle does not have the low end torque. So if I'm using a surfacing bit at low RPM, I've got to be a little safer with it, because that will bog down and come to a stop if I'm not careful.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that. That's no fun.
No.
We've all been there. We've all burned some wood before. Yeah. That's not a fun thing to do.
But once I learned, that Hitachi, man, that thing, it had low end torque. There's no getting around it. I could cut, I get my bigger surfacing bits. I could take off, I don't know about a 1/4 inch, but I could take off an 1/8 of an inch on hardwood pretty fast if I wanted to. It had power.
It'll move.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, well, this is a little bit of a different question, but I love this. So Roger Day is asking, Rob, did you serve with the 11th ACR?
I did not. I did not serve. He's talking about the cross sabers right there. When I was young, I marched in a drum bugle corps, the Casper Troopers, which was pretty good drum corps. I mean, if you don't follow drum corps, most people don't. It's kind of like a marching band, but I just insulted drum corps people by saying the word marching band with drum corps. It's like comparing high school football with the NFL. You spend 12 hours a day for months and months and months working on one 12-minute show, and you're getting as close to perfection as you can. And it's a good way for a drummer to build your chops, and it's a lot of music majors. It's top end stuff. So it's a drum corps thing. Casper Wyoming was usually was Fort Casper. Casper Collins was the guy who they named it after. He was in the Ohio 11th Cavalry. So that's why the 11th Cav is there. So, okay. But a lot of people ask that, are you Black Horse? No, I was not part of that. I did not serve. Well, my dad did, my grandpa did, my uncles, my brother and my brother-in-law, and they all told me don't do it. So they talked me out of it. I was ready to, and I got talked out of it. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that little bit of insight with us about the
drum corps.
Yes, thank you.
Kate, if you ever watched a drum corps in action, it's pretty phenomenal.
I just wrote that down. I'm like, I'm gonna have to look that up and just expand my a little bit.
Yeah, you'll find something on YouTube and you'll watch it and you say, how the heck do all those guys in one shot keep all that rhythm?
It was pretty cool. I did it for 3 summers.
Look, y'all, if I can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time and not trip and kill myself, it's a good day. Okay, so drum corps probably not for me. All right, yeah, we have another question that comes in. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the same one. This comes from Andy. It says, "Is the self friction fit for work holding?"
Are we? I assume we're talking like the puzzle pieces, the friction fit to get it to go.
I would guess
I
so.
assume I can talk about it for a minute here. I mean, the puzzle pieces, I try to get as tight as I can so I can press it together without having to use a hammer, which like I said, that first drum was not successful, but the second drum I did, the little pieces, I got a good fit on that. And I'm trying to think, there's another guy out there, a YouTuber who's big, and I can't think of his name now. He does a lot of point puzzles and joinery and turning. I want to say George something, but that's not right. But I'd have problems, and I noticed that I couldn't get things they would fit fine this way, or they would be too tight. But if I flipped it over and one top to top or bottom to bottom, and reversed it, it fit much better. And he has like a $10,000, I forgot what machine he's what machines Mark have? He has
An Avid.
Avid. He has an Avid. I mean, it was a top end Avid, probably. I don't know, but he said the same thing. The bits I think were at the collet, they were tight, or not tight, but there's no flex there. But as you further get down, there'd be flex at the bottom, so it was actually a slight cone shape. And he realized, with a top end machine, that if he would flip every other piece over, it would fit much better, the puzzle pieces. And I'd figured that out too. And I figured, because I had a cheap machine, I thought it was too much slack in my machine, but it kind of made me feel better about my machine when he had the same exact issue on this very expensive machine. But the friction fit is pretty darn good. And if you try to overpress it, even it's almost too tight. But I did a lot of test pieces to get that fit just how I wanted it.
I feel like that is the number one thing that everyone says that you cannot get away from, even with like inlays. It's like, how many inlays did it take to get to this point? How many test fits did you do to get it? Because I always see all of these beautiful projects, like something like yours, or these really intricate puzzles or something like that. And everybody always asks, what were your tolerances? What were your offsets? And they're like, depends on the wood, depends on the humidity, depends on there's like 5 million things. So it's like one answer is going to be.
In the end, about 6 style works for me on that. But it's funny how the throat of the puzzle piece, that actually, you would think the male and female part would be exactly the same, but again, I can't explain if my machine has a little slack somewhere or what, but I actually had to make the throat a little, I forget if it's tighter or looser, which way, but to get it to work right. It's not even a perfect fit. It looks like when in CAD, but on the machine it works perfect. And you learn your machine. It's like the guy who golfs, and you got a heck of a slice. Well, make it work. Point that way and end up on the fairway. So,
yeah, absolutely,
so.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we have several more questions here, so we're just going to kind of keep rolling through these here. Let's see here. So, Rob, when you carve your drums, do you carve across top, then rotate, or spin on revolution, then move the bit over?
I wrote my own little G code, and the drum will continuously spin, and the bit will slowly move while it's spinning. And writing G code, you right now, everyone thought, wow, that sounds impressive. It's not. My machine, 360 degrees is easy, but if I want to go 10 rotations, it's 3,633 degrees, or if I want to go more yet. And so I have a program, all I do is say G0, A, like 20,000, much more than that, probably like 50,000, and X9. One command, it'll rotate and rotate and rotate while it's slowly moving across, and it'll skim that. Now I grabbed some other piece of G code that was created by VCarve, and so the header and footer, I use that, but I just cut out the old G code and put that one command in, and it rotates, continuously skims. It's great. It's
nice. That's
it does the same thing when it's doing the 3D or the VCarve.
The 3D, I go across, and it'll rotate, and I'm going across like such.
Yeah.
I use about an 8% step over. So I think I
Pretty
might have a
low.
video out there. Really, just you can watch like a 1-minute video. I think, and it just watch it. It's sped up, so it looks fast, but you see it going back and forth.
Neat. That's definitely cool. I won't lie. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. So WXX is asking, how do you calculate the outside pattern to match at the end of the circumference length?
It's a lot of. Well, I love how VCarve. I can preview things and look at, because I get a piece of 3D artwork and I'll stretch it or whatever, get it to work right, and I get it about how I want it. Then I've got to take it into Blender to add my, because I have the posts for the studs to go into the, whatever. It raises up to hold that.
Yeah.
So,
how does Blender help you make a better drum?
all I do with that is combine 3D things. Because I'll get. So I have a tool pad or a shape. It's just a bowl basically. So it's open ended. So I have a bowl shape. I'll put my multiple things in there, like that dragon that I showed. The head is a separate piece, a separate STL file in the body, and it all started with one. I would cut it and then put it back together, rotate how I want the head to be on there, and so I can combine like 4 or 5 STL files. I don't like Blender. I really don't. Every time I do something, I still have to go looking on YouTube on how to do basic stuff. It is not intuitive.
For those that don't know,
I love VECTRIC. So
okay. For those that don't know, explain what Blender is.
It's a 3D program to create 3D files. I think it does a lot more than I'm just saying. I think you can do animation, moving files and whatnot, which I don't care about that. But all I care about is STL files, modifying, combining. Is, like I say, each stud or post for the lugs to hold up the raised section, I'll have 20 of those. I'll have a raised spot to hold the snare throw, my logo, different raised heights. I built that once, so they're all lined up exactly right. So when I import it, they'll be in the right spot, spacing evenly. Okay. Then I'll take the 3D file, I'll place it in there, and I can turn it sideways there, raise it up and down, what it looks like. So I know it's not above the drum. I'll get as close to the Z0 as possible.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful software. It is, but it just is not intuitive like VECTRIC is. Again, I've got to sell 4 or 5 drums. I would really like Aspire, but it's another $1,300. And again, this is a hobby. This is not a business for me. And that's a big chunk. It's a big chunk. But I really want it. Someday I'll save up with some drum sales and get it. But
yeah, it is. It's a big jump, but I know a lot of people really embrace it, and I'd be interested to see what's really new in the Aspire version of V12. And I was kind of playing around on their website and looking around at different things, and I think there's going to be some really cool things that have come out, and kind of explore that
video. Yeah, well, like always, everything that's in VCarve Pro plus more. But if you get it in VCarve Pro, they'll give it there too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Kyle and I are going to be doing that special next week. I'll announce it to CNC Insiders. I'll make a video. I'll tell everybody I know that they can tell all their following. We're going to talk about V12.
Awesome.
So everybody filled in at one time.
All right. So this next
VECTRIC, real quick, I happen to have a new grandson in Austin, Texas. So I can talk my wife into going to Austin for the VECTRIC conference this fall. Not even hard to talk her into it. So I will be at VECTRIC. So if anybody's there, you see me, hey, let's go have a cup of coffee.
I'm expecting to go.
Cool.
It'll be fun. All right. Well, our next comment comes from the famous Mr. Mark Lindsay. He says, so you hear that Rob's looking for models and artwork that are 40 inches long and 5 inches wide. Go get on it, you artists. So
I would love to be able to design in 3D, but you can only go to so many things, and maybe if I had time to do it, but that's a special skill set I don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that's a really good point just to bring up for those of you who are considering buying software. The designing and the tool pathing is one thing, but building 3D models is a completely different level. Right. So like when we're talking Aspire will do your designs and you can do your tool paths. But if you want to do 3D models, it'll do that too. But you have to have an entirely new skill set. It's just very different. So you always,
Yeah.
like Kate says, you got to baby step first.
Yep. You got to walk before you can run.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Don't-
This is not
don't
one of
try to
those
get this-
cheat things. There's no special
Yeah.
cheat codes.
I'll chime
Yeah.
in a little more too. For CNC, I think you need to be a little bit of a jack of all trades. You don't have to be expert in anything, but you have to understand a little bit about the design work. Not a lot. A little bit about woodworking, obviously. A little bit about all these things. I mean, I built my machine, so a little bit of kind of mechanical. I'm not going to call myself an engineer, but a little bit of electronics. Just
Yeah.
don't have to be expert, but you have to be just scratch the surface in a lot of areas. I think helps. Of course, when I started, you had to build your own machine, or else spend a lot of money. Things have changed a lot in 10 years.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
Because back
No,
then there
before we-
was the original
Yeah.
X-Carve and Shapeoko, and the original. I mean, now they make much better machines, but those first ones were they were not that good. I don't think. I'm
Not
probably
just
offending
starting-
people. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to do that, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
my plywood machine makes those look pretty bad. I think.
Yeah. Well, they started somewhere.
Yeah.
Before we go to the next question, y'all, just we're talking to Rob Shuster for anybody who's popped in late. And Rob is from SideWinder Drums. He's built his own CNC router. He makes drums. He does on the CNC, among other CNC things. He does it as a hobby. He built the machine to make the drums. And so make sure you check out Rob Shuster, SideWinder Drums YouTube channel. If you like Kate and I having special guests on board, make sure that you give us a thumbs up. And if you aren't subscribed to any of our 3 channels, be sure to subscribe to IDC Woodcraft and Women Who CNC and to SideWinder Drums. Yeah. And Kate, you haven't talked about Women Who CNC, what it is. You want to take a minute to share?
Yeah. So for any women watching, if you're not familiar with the Facebook group, Women Who CNC, come over and join us. We also do have the YouTube channel, and we also have the website, Women Who CNC, where there are lots of great links and information, anything you could really need as far as, just general basic like woodworking tools, things that I use every day in my shop, epoxy, lot of just good information. So come over to the Facebook group, join us, say hey. You'll get welcomed by a whole host of women, and we've got lots of beginners, and we have lots of advanced women in the group. Some are longtime woodworkers, so you'll definitely get to meet a variety of women. And the group is for women only. I'm sorry, fellas, but that's what it was designed for. It was designed for only women and women who CNC. So if you fit that category, come on over and join us on Facebook. We'd love to have you. So let's see. What else? I'm trying to think of what else we had going on. I don't know. This week in the shop, it's kind of been a little bit of a train wreck this week. Have you guys had like rough weeks in the shop?
Not really.
No, not really.
Mm-mm.
Why? I feel like everything is just like I found out today. I spent like 3 hours on the phone with JTech, and like my laser's like crapping out on me. Figure out what's going on there, and it's just been one dang thing after another. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just blaming it on the Indiana weather. We're just gonna, shoot for the rest of the week to be better. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Moving on.
Yeah. There you go. It's all good the rest of the week.
It's all good. So, all right. Well, we are going to jump on to the rest of these questions. Rob, if you're up for some more.
You bet.
All right. Let's do it. All right. This question comes from Chris. Could this be reversed to do the inside of a deep dish rim for a car?
Conceptually, probably, but again, I only do wood. This machine would never do metal. So, but I've never seen them. I don't know. I haven't seen that many mills in my life, actually. I've only seen one or two ever in my life. I'm not around that type of stuff. Are there rotary mills?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know you
Got
got
to do the inside of something. That's
yeah, it's a little different. Well, there has to be, right? I mean, when I was in CNC machining, I had visited a company, and they couldn't really tell me how they did it. I was visiting as interviewing for a job, and they made missiles that had it was the missile shell that was cut on the inside, and it was cut in a diamond pattern. So when the missile exploded, all this fragmentation would go out. I said, "How do you guys do that?" Well, we can't tell you, but I mean, we can put two and two together as CNC creators.
Yeah.
We just make a drum making CNC, and we'll figure it out.
Oh, Lord. All right. Well, our next one comes from Jeff. It says, nice work. One of my hobbies is Civil War reenactments. Have you made a period drum?
I have not, but I mentioned the Casper Troopers Drum Corps. They always have one or two for their history because, it's Ohio 11th Cav. They're supposed to be Civil War. What's out west? It wasn't Civil War, but their uniforms are based on 1860s uniforms. So they used that style drum often, but I've never made one. And could I? I'm sure I could, but it's just a flat round drum, and they would paint stuff on it. They didn't actually carve into those, so it probably wouldn't be the. I mean, could my machine do it? Yes, but is it the right tool for it? Probably not. Like a lot of times, can a CNC do it? Yes, but is it the right tool? If you don't have anything else, it'll work. But a planer works better than using this to do things. But
Yeah. I'm trying to think of where they have the Civil War reenactment. It's like a 360-degree panorama of, or no, I'm sorry. It's not this, however you want to, say it. I believe it's actually the Battle of Gettysburg. It's a full reenactment of, it's like a painting, like an artist came in and painted the entire reenactment, but you can literally walk around 360 degrees and see all the things. I mean, that would be pretty cool. But so I think what he's saying, yeah, I could see that would be pretty magnificent, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very unique.
That would be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just trying to think of what it was, and I'm like, we've been to a lot of history and a lot of museums, so I was trying to wrap my head around where I remember seeing that. But it was pretty cool. All right, so let's see. Dan has another question for you. Why Linux CNC? What factors make it attractive to you?
Good question.
when I first started out, I had 2 kids in college when I did my first machine, and it was free, and it would run on an old basic computer. So that's why I started with it, because I was trying to, that whole shoestring CNC name, that fit me. We're finally empty nesters. The kids were in college now, but we were poor because we were putting 2 kids through college. So I did it because it was free, and it didn't scare me. I work IT, so Linux doesn't scare me, and the install is really simple. You have an installation disk to load Linux. It also loads Linux CNC and Linux all at once, the whole operating system, everything. To get a basic machine going, it's pretty easy with Linux CNC. But once you want to start adding things, it's harder, but it's more customizable. So you can design your own screen exactly how you want it, which I have because I like doing web stuff also and IT stuff. If you just want a basic software that will run a CNC machine, it's great. A lot of industrial machines run Linux CNC, but most industrial machines, they have added their own features on top of it. But it's rock solid. It's bulletproof. I don't know of it ever stopping in 10 years because software issues. Now, I've had hardware issues or plenty of human mistakes, Lord knows. But yeah, the actual software, and my top video is how to do a touch plate on Linux CNC, and that's about 6-7 years old, but it's got 30,000 views. They're just the sad thing is there's there's not a people that have that many videos on how to do it. That's why it's so popular, is
Yeah.
because no
I'm
one else
sure.
can find it.
I'm
But
sure.
I've got it working with touch plates, and I have homing switches, and I have relays to turn things on. The spindle gets turned on, or the router gets turned on. I've customized it to exactly how I want it, and then I don't mess with it. So I haven't dug into the guts of Linux in 2-3 years probably, because I've got it how I want it. I'm not going to mess with it. If so, somebody's going to ask me how to do this. I don't remember, but I like it. It's worked good for me.
Well, good. Well, good. I think this next question is, it's kind of crossed my mind too. What about like how your work is held down?
Okay. I'm going to move the camera real quick.
No.
It's pretty simple.
Julianne, do you want to put him full screen?
So we have just a plate right here and a plate right here. This is a threaded rod between here, and I've just got a wrench and a 1/2-inch bolt, and that's how I get the drum off. And there's also a bolt right here, a coupler bolt in here where I put the two pieces of threaded rod together. But that's all there is to it. I can have a drum in and out in 3 or 4 minutes.
That's
So
cool.
is that set in a hub so it won't come out of axis, I guess is the way of putting it?
This side is. In fact, let me see. Where's the gap in here? Okay. So there's the coupler. When I first built it, I had the belt and it went down to the threaded rod and there was a gap. And then I had this one held in by, or one like this, held in by just bolts on each side. This is actually, there's got, you can see it here. I've got 4 bolts that go directly into the pulley. So this thing it's rock solid. It's not going to be any gap. Even if it's a 1/2-inch threaded rod, when there was a gap between there, you can get a little bit of flex in a 1/2-inch rod. So that was another thing that really helped stiffen up the machine, is attaching this piece directly to that pulley.
Huh. How long did it take you to come up with this machine concept?
I bet I probably thought about it for 6 months before I actually started cutting anything. I bet it was that much. I designed everything in VCarve Pro, which is probably the best thing to do that, but that's the software I became comfortable with. And I had different angles in my mind, how shots, and drew it all out so I knew the clearance would work. And I changed so much since then that if somebody wanted these plans, it wouldn't work anymore. I mean, it would work, but it wouldn't be this machine anymore because I've changed so much. So
Okay.
I put a lot of hours thinking about it, because it's one of those times I'd sold quite a bit of stuff, and I actually had, $1,000 in my war account to build stuff, and I always kind of want to do it. So I splurged and took a chance, and I knew there was a good chance that I just wasted $1,000, but it came out good.
Right.
I take chances, little chances, not big chances.
Right.
Well, I'd say you took a pretty big chance doing this Rotary build your own CNC. I mean, it may have started out on a shoestring budget, but I think it's become pretty evolved and a pretty elusive product that you've built. So kudos to you. And so let's see here. I'm not sure. I think Bob is asking a question. He's talking about for a shop tour. I'd like to stop by your shop when I head down to Tucson, May 6th, 7th, or 8th. Will you be available for a quick tour? So, Bob, you'll have to clarify because
Saturday mornings are usually when I spend time in this. I don't know if that's a weekend or not, the 6th, 7th, 8th. That sounds like it is. And mid-month, we're heading to Nebraska for a graduation, for a niece high school graduation.
Very
But
cool.
I think I'm going that Saturday morning. I'm probably going to be working in the garage doing stuff. So I'm always happy to talk CNC.
Yeah.
Use either on Facebook. I've got my Facebook account, and I've got one called SideWinder Drums, one called Shuster's Artistic Woodcraft, which the acronym is SAW. So between those two, send me a message on Facebook Messenger, and I'll happy to talk to you. We can set something up.
There you
I
go.
assume you're in Phoenix.
Garrett, is all of Rob's information, like contact info, in the description of the video?
There we have it. we've
Julian,
been clarified.
yes, it is all in the description of the video. If you're not familiar
Yep.
with how the descriptions of YouTube videos work, there's a little
I
button that says more.
actually knew that. I just zoned out for a moment. But
No, you're fine. I was saying for the people who are, if you're watching and you're not familiar with how to get that content, and under the description of the video, there's a little blue word that says more. You can click on that and I'll drop it down. I'll give you the full description and all of the contact information for Rob, Garrett, and myself if you need to get a hold of any of us for any particular reason or want to follow the channel. And sometimes even things that are mentioned in the videos will be in that description. So please go back and check that if you want to reference something particular or you're catching this, on the replay. So check that out. All right.
We forget how obscure this hobby is sometimes. I mean, between Facebook and things and watching these things, there are more people out there. But when it comes to actually people I know of in the state of Arizona who have a CNC, it's not many that I know one guy in Tucson, now Cody up in Phoenix, obviously. I know you guys have a good relationship. You're quasi-competitors, but also partners, but not partners, but you guys are both great guys that support the hobby.
Yeah. Have you gone up to meet Cody?
I have. In fact, this last fall, we did an Arizona meetup for CNCers. So,
cool.
It was really good. Spent about 3 or 4 hours, a bunch of people talking CNC, and then we went out and had lunch and went home. Actually, I took the Rotary up there. I showed it off there. So I put it back in my pickup.
Kate, Kate, let's do something like that. Let's set that up.
Yeah.
I know they just had what's the shop? What's the one they just had that you were at? Shop something con? Workbench con?
Oh, Workbench con.
Yeah, I would. It's hard for me to justify going that far for a hobby, but if there was one within not too many hours of here, I'd love to do something like that in the West or Southwest. That looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think there would be, and I don't know if you have any interest in meeting other drum makers, but I actually have a cousin. He has a company called Drum Drums, and his name is Matt Hardwick, and he's on my dad's side of the family. He's a very, very cool guy, but he actually does make all of their own drums, and they're widely known throughout California, and I guess, for that matter, all over the country. But you might look him up, Drum Drums. Matt's a very cool guy and very, very passionate about what he does. They're really big on Instagram, and I'm not sure if they do a lot of YouTube videos, but they're pretty cool. They do a lot of cool stuff. So I don't know, maybe you guys could do like a unique collab or something. So
that would be fun. I've talked about some other people I know doing that, and I'm not familiar with him off the top of my head, but just like CNC Facebook groups, there's drum builder Facebook groups, and I bet if he's on Facebook, I've seen his stuff before.
Mm-hmm.
And
Carolyn said she wants to do an Arizona CNC meetup.
Yeah, I forgot Carolyn was out there in Arizona. Yeah, she's a really awesome CNCer too.
We've talked about between, I think, Halloween and Thanksgiving, maybe it might happen, but I'm not going to say it like that. But we talked about doing it again. It was a lot of fun, and I would hope it works out. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time. Again, you never meet these people face to face. I talk to them online all the time, but we're an obscure hobby. There's no getting around it. There's not a lot of people on my street I could talk about CNC with. So
I know. We always joke about that often because it's like we geek out over certain things, and people are just like, "What?" Like they just look at you like you're got like, I don't know, something on your head or something weird. And then you meet somebody that like does CNC and you're like, yes, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So I totally get it why you're just super excited to talk about it, because like these are your people. Like we could listen to this and we know what you're talking about. So it's exciting. So I get it. All right. So we do have a couple of questions. left, it says WXX. So there is no crossover problem from 360 degree to 0 degree to repeat.
None at all. You always set your parameters up like in your XYZ machine. You tell it for homing, like you tell it it's got a 30-inch Y and a 48-inch, I'm sorry, X and Y, whatever. You put that in there. On the rotary, I told it 1,000,000 degrees I can go up to. So I can keep turning that if I want to. Or when VECTRIC builds rotary code, usually it goes to 180 to minus 180 and goes back and forth. But if I have G code, like I said, when I write my own G code to skin the drums, I go to 50,000, 100,000 degrees, no problem at all. The machine can handle it. Now, VECTRIC usually say it stops usually between 180 and minus 180 to get the 360 degrees. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. It does to me. I was actually had the same question because all the CNC machines I know, they always index back to their home position or 0 position. So when you finish that carve and it's rotated, 30, 10,000 times, whatever it rotates, how do you reset your 0? I mean, it doesn't spin back 10,000
No,
times.
well, you could, but no. Yeah, I just tell it set 0, just like you said that your Z0 all the time. I set the A0 all the time.
Okay.
Set 0, and that's usually for just a round drum. So it's not even like there is no set 0. I don't care when I'm just rounding a drum. Now, once I start carving, I can't lose that. But at that point, it never goes past 180 or minus 180. So at that point, I'm not going to lose it.
Okay. All right. Well, I saw a couple of. I see one question from Had Enough Okay, and that's more of a question for possibly next week. We're gearing more of our questions towards Rob and what's going on with him. So if you want to bring that question back next week, that would be wonderful. So let's see. B. Adkins or Benny, he says, I noticed that the bearing edge of your drums is very similar to drums designed by Stephen Volp. Are you familiar with him?
I don't know that name. Now, the bearing edge, she's talking about the top and the bottom. And most of the time, people get a router table and just round that edge. You can see that very well. There's just a little bit of rounding there. Usually 1/8 or 1/4 inch round. And just they put it on the router table and circle around that bearing edge to get that rounding. I took it a step further because I can do I call it a compound radius. So it starts and then finally drops off suddenly. So it's something I can do on the CNC to make it different. I'm not sure if it's any better what I do. I don't know if you guys follow these. And people talk about like guitars, the tone, and how this wood is so much better and all these things. I can't tell you that anything I've done is any better or worse than anything else. And even experts say, in a small room with a softly played drum, you can probably tell the difference. Once you put a microphone on it, an average, I'm not going to say a cheap drum, but an average drum will sound as good as a top-end drum once you mic it and run it through a sound system. So
okay.
I don't get into all those arguments.
So something we have not touched on tonight is, do you finish the drums? Like, do you?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not happy with how I use armor seal, armor seal, wipe on poly, and I'll do a bunch of coats, sand in between, and I can get a pretty good finish, but it's very time consuming. I've played a little bit with just spraying on lacquer, and that's probably what I should be doing, spray on lacquer, though I use the rattle can, not a sprayer.
Yeah.
I know I'm open to trying something different. I tried the Odie's oil, a hard wax, and in fact, the one I just showed that one I showed you, it's just not. I want a better shine than that. It's more of a matte finish. I wish I could use that because it's the wipe on wax finish would be nice, but just not enough gloss for me that I want.
I'm trying to. Let me look back here at my handy dandy notebook. So I had a question for you as far as do you have like a favorite project that you've done And I don't think we'd asked, how long have you actually been doing this?
Drums is probably 3 or 4 years now, and
Okay.
CNC is about 10 years. Anywhere between 9 and 11. I can't tell you when I started, but it's been quite a while now.
It's been a minute.
My favorite project. There's a famous quote. Sorry, I'm going to left field here for a few seconds.
Nope.
They asked Enzo Ferrari what his favorite Ferrari he ever was, and it's always the next one. And I always think my mind is always concentrated on the next project, not the last one. That
Right.
Monopoly board, that was really nice. That one came out nice. It's
Yeah.
sitting behind me, but this camera won't do it justice. But that thing came out really nice.
It is beautiful.
We have a coffee table in the living room, and it fits underneath that really well, and it'll get used. Well, need more grandkids now to be able to play Monopoly with, but we'll keep that around forever.
That is my son's favorite game, and every time he digs it out, my husband is like, "Oh God,
Here we go again. Huh?
here we
But
go again."
that dragon drum he showed, I'm not sure it's my best drum, but it was my first really good drum, and that one's real special to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what my question is, on the finishing, you're using urethane, correct? Are you using spray on urethane?
No,
How-
wipe on poly or spray on lacquer. But
So,
That's great.
okay. So you obviously have to put on very thin coats, or you have to keep that drum rotating to prevent the runs and what have you. So
yeah,
how do you work that?
I've got I call it the spider, but it's a thing that expands. As I put the bolts, I got a thread rod on not on the machine, but just on a rack. And as I
Mhm.
pull it in, it expands out. I can pull it out though it's full of sawdust. It'll get messy, but it goes inside the drum. As I tighten the bolt, it expands out a little bit, and I can spin the drum that way.
So does it keep rotating while it's
by
drying?
hand. I can spin it by hand. Now, if
Okay.
I've done, like when I talked about an epoxy drum before. I was trying to do epoxy. I did that on the rotary machine, and I told it again. I said it to run, I don't know how many degrees, but it was going to run like half an hour or more, and just keep circling forever. And so I was trying to get it so it turned fast enough the epoxy wouldn't drip off, but slow enough I could work with it. But I couldn't get it to work. That was a fail.
Gotcha.
But I would like to have. I probably should buy a little 12-volt motor just so I can turn that other one, because spraying, keep it turning continuously while it dries. The nice about lacquer dries so fast.
Yeah, just
literally
right
3 or
now.
4 minutes, and it's
So Brooks is asked. Oh, you go ahead. Kate.
No. Go ahead. No. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, Brooks Martin says, so Rob, do you zero Z on the surface or on the axis, the center? What? How do you zero?
I always do on the surface. In fact, I showed you these clamps that clamp on the side.
Yeah.
Those are exactly 13.875. So if I haven't skimmed the drum yet, I'll zero on the clamp, those clamshells that go in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. So do you paper touch?
I use paper. Yeah.
Okay. And
I
then
don't have.
how do you-
On a rotary, I'm not sure how you do a. I suppose I could do a touch plate. I mean, I know how to do it. I've did it for my other machine. I wrote this in the software,
yeah,
the G code.
what about your X? How do you set your X?
I just get a tape measure out and mark it with a pencil where the center is.
Okay.
Because
So you
most of my
design
drums are 8 inches, but like I sent a picture of that one that's got the lions on it. That one's 7 inches instead of 8. And I did one for a guy who he wanted specific design stuff. That one was a commission work, and he wanted a 5-inch drum, which is not rare. I think it's maybe 5.5. But a lot of people want a thinner drum. But for artwork and stuff, a bigger drum is just easier to work with.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, some people on rotary always center off the center of the rotating mass, which I don't do that, but some people do that.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Looks like WXX had a question. What is the biggest diameter drum you've made?
At this point, I just do snares, so I've done 13 and 14. When I built the machine, I built it so I could do up to 22-inch bass drum for like a drum set. Well, that's another topic. Got a few minutes? I'm going to show you something that's kind of cool, I think.
Yeah.
Sure, go for
Okay,
it.
let me put this back out. So, I'm going to point this down. This whole thing here, you see this rail here and stuff, this whole thing I can raise up and down. Because I've only got like 3 inches on the Z-play here. But this part's like a drawbridge, so I can raise the whole thing, including the threaded rod and stuff. It all raises. So I can raise that up to, so I can do something very tiny, get it right next to the router, or I can take this all the way down so I can get it further away and do, like I say, I should have clearance to a 20-inch drum, 22-inch drum. I have,
Wow.
hold on. Again, I put a lot of thought into this, and I rarely use that, but I have done some smaller projects before too. There's 4 bolts here. So I loosen those 4 bolts. Then I have this a screw here, and I can take it down 10 steps or micro adjustments, basically just get it exactly right. Exact same thing on the other side, 4 bolts, loosen it, tighten it. And so that way I can do a bigger drum, smaller drum. I did, gosh, when my daughter got married, I did a little wine bottle. It's wood, but it looks like a wine bottle, and I carved their wedding date and stuff on it. It was a cool project.
Boy, talk about something that would sell well.
Yeah.
You know, I've shared it a few times, and I always expected people would latch onto that and try to sell it. And people ask about rotary projects, and I thought it came out. Whoops! I thought it came out spectacular, and
Yeah.
I just used a molding toolpath on it. It wasn't even a 3D toolpath. It came out great.
Interesting.
I should have sent you that picture. Maybe I did. Did I send you that picture?
So
I don't think I did.
so you can raise and lower the axis relative to the router head. How do you make sure you're level?
I have I have a threaded rod, just a 1/4-inch threaded rod that's a set distance, and I take the router to one side and make sure it touches the top of that threaded rod, and I'll raise it up, go to the other side, and with that long red threaded rod, I can get it perfectly level.
Okay.
And that's an issue. That's before I thought I had it right, and I don't know what I was doing before, but that's what I finally came up with. But I did it wrong multiple times before I got it right.
Right.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really awesome. All right. Well, I mean, if nothing else, you should patent your design.
People have said that before, but I don't think you can patent a rotary CNC. I mean, yeah, if you could patent the CNC, somebody out there making a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, all right. So I saw this comment come in from Brooks Martin. I thought was very helpful. Waterlock's finish has a glossy finish. So
I don't know that one, but I can certainly Google it and YouTube it. I guess I learned everything from YouTube University. That's how I learn my stuff.
I know. School of YouTube, man. I love it. No, what I was looking for is last week we had on Ray Kinman, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ray Kinman, but he is a Disney artist, exceptional at what he does. And I was looking back to my notes.
That was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
I
watched him, and I also watched last week.
Oh, last week it was just us. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
But I did watch him.
Yeah, Julianne scheduled a break for us last week.
Yes. Thank you, Julianne. Appreciate that. But yes, I was looking at back at my notes from Ray, and because we did talk about a lot of sealers and a lot of different things for different projects, but his preference was more matte, and so he had a lot of really great recommendations for that, but not for glossy. So that's what I was trying to look back and see. But thanks to Brooks, you have a nice, good new suggestion to try out.
It's the one thing I'm trying to find in my finish is when you do 3D work. To get a nice finish with any poly, whatever, you're putting on layers and layers and layers. And to me, it kind of dulls a 3D artwork because you're filling in the nooks and crannies. So I'm trying to find, that's why I really wanted the hard wax oil to work, whoever I told you it was, Odie's oil. I really wanted that to work because that wouldn't build up and it would not fill in nooks and crannies and would work better for 3D artwork. I can find something with only 1 or 2 coats and be good, and I don't know.
Let me see.
I'm just not happy with what I have now.
Okay.
This is the one. This is the one I really like. So sorry, it's got sawdust all over it. So this is the wood butter.
Okay, I haven't used that one yet.
Yeah. So this one is really. Oh, you can tell it's been a minute, but it's got like a really thick paste that you can use on it. And so what I like to almost do, it comes in like a wax, but what I will do is actually put it like, I know it's going to sound dumb, but I'll put it on a candle warmer, or like a little coffee pot. Sometimes I can bring those goofy things out, put my coffee on them to keep it warm in the shop.
I thought you were going to say microwave it actually, but okay.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I don't want to like damage it. So I just will get it warm. And then if I have like lots of projects that need sealed at one time, I just kind of do that. And then we'll go in and work it in with a little bit of a brush instead of like trying to jam it down into all of the products. And then that way I still get this, because this has a really high sheen to it. So this is something I like. You can use it more like a wax, but I feel like when you put it on, and it's warm and it's not, otherwise it's literally like a wax. Like you've got to it's harder than what to get out of the jar in itself, but it's recommended for like wood turners and things like that, because it is that hard wax, but melting it helps it.
Do you do it by itself or do you put it on top of regular Odie's?
No, I just use it by itself. Okay. I guess you could, like, that's not a terrible idea.
Again, I've watched a lot of Odie's videos and no two people do it the same way.
Yes,
say you have to do
it's very buildable. Yes. But no, when I've done this, I will usually just do it. And then I may do like a lighter coat and kind of go over it a little bit at first and just kind of make sure I've got everything covered and let it do its thing. And then I'll come back and put another coat on it. And it seems to work really well. When I want a higher gloss sheen and a good protectant, that's what I'll use. Now I will warn you. So whatever their size jars are, 9 ounces. I believe this was like $70.
Yeah, Odie's is not cheap. It goes a long ways. It's scary that I see that price tag, but I know I could do at least regular Odie's oil. I could probably do 7-8 drums, maybe more with it.
Yeah, like I said, I've had this jar forever and it's probably down to about right here. So it goes a long way. It's not like it's
that's it. Yeah, I know what you're saying. All the Odie's products are that way. They go a long way, but they're not cheap. It looks so tiny, but I know it goes a long way.
Yeah, no, not bad at all. So I think to wrap up for our questions here, we have a couple comments about where you were talking about meeting up. So John says, how about a meetup group at the VECTRIC users group gathering?
That is going to be kind of a meetup in and of itself anyway.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm sure you learn something at the seminars, but I'd go to those more for the coffee break between and stuff, just to talk with people. That's the best part.
You meet a lot of really cool people. And this gentleman here, Bob, says he lives in Flagstaff and he would love to get together in Arizona.
There you go. So Carolyn, you make a note there.
There you go. You guys will have to get together in the comments, find each other's names, and start a little.
Yeah, here you go, Carolyn, Bob. Start a CNC group of creators, CNC creators in Arizona, or Arizona CNC creators. They'll start to come when they start saying that.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Last year we did it, and about a month ahead we decided we're going to do it, and it worked. There's more than a dozen people there, but a month is not long enough to let people know and get stuff going. So, yeah, I'd love to have an Arizona meetup.
Okay,
but not in the summer.
You mean you don't want to stand outside and just chat?
No.
Arizona gets hot in the summertime. So you're in the southern end of Arizona?
Say again?
You're in Tucson, so you're southern Arizona. That's it. Yeah, it definitely gets hot.
I'm between Phoenix and Tucson. Yeah.
Well, a long time ago, maybe 20 years, maybe 10 years ago, me and a girlfriend, we flew to Arizona to tour. We landed in Phoenix, and we were going to camp the whole way. So we stopped right at Walmart, got a rental car, got to Walmart, got some food, and we decided to make some sandwiches. That air was so dry. By the time she finished making the sandwiches, they were like toast. Literally, it dries up that fast. There's so little air in it. Yeah. But
No thanks.
you get up. Yep, you get up in the Highlands though. At night, it gets pretty doggone cold, even in the summertime. Up the Grand Canyon.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I forgot his name. Flagstaff. That's 7,000 foot. So it's
Oh, that's pretty high
Oh, yeah,
too. Yeah,
right.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's
That's it. I grew up in Wyoming at 7,200 foot, and so even in the middle of summer, the nights were cold, and I mean cold,
Okay.
cold.
You know, do you remember the Oak Creek Canyon fire?
Yeah.
So me and my girlfriend, we camped there the night before. We left that day that fire started.
Up by probably did Slide Rock, that area through there, Oak Creek Canyon.
Slide the Rock fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun area.
Yeah, that was Major
That's
Canyon.
scary.
Or Major Fire.
Yikes. Well, I don't know about you guys, but we are almost to our 2-hour mark.
Top of the hour.
So I will just say, Rob, it has been really fun and very interesting to talk to you, sir. And I personally appreciate you coming on the show and just
Mhm.
sharing all of your very unique talents and artwork with us. I mean, you're one of a kind. So don't forget to, give yourself that extra credit when you're struggling, that there's a bunch of us out here that are just like sitting here in awe of everything that you're doing. So
Thank you. That's it. I mean, a lot of these things, I'm just doing basic CNC stuff, except on a drum. I'm just carving on a drum. And I made a comment on a show, some friends, were talking, and I said, I'm going back to basics and just doing a V-carve like this. And they kind of laughed at me. I said, back to basics. And they laughed at me that's not basics, Rob. But really it is. It's just a V-carve pattern that it wasn't that hard. I bought a file on Etsy for $3 and extended it. And sometimes
it's just cool when you just like, I wonder if I can do that, and then you just figure it out. That's the cool part about it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. It's you have a very unique talent. So thank you for taking the time tonight to share that with us. And we very much appreciate you.
Thank you very much. It was fun. It was good. I liked it. It was a little
all right,
nervous.
everybody, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you go to Rob's channel and subscribe. Check out some of the really cool stuff that he does. Of course, ladies, sign up to Women Who CNC and Facebook. And give thumbs up to all the channels and subscribe. And we're going to be here next week. We have Lainey next week, another very talented creator. And then after that, we are going to have the guys from Long Mill on board. So Kate and I keep racking up these people to have on board as special guests. Want to give you as much different variety as we can, help you with your CNC journey. So with that, Rob, thank you for taking a couple hours out and sharing about this machine, the drums, and all the other stuff. Sometimes it's just you're always learning something. That's what I really like about this. And folks, I hope that everyone out there got some new tips out of this, got your creative juices flowing. Maybe who knows what kind of crazy CNC creations can come out of this kind of stuff.
Who knows? All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. We will see you all. You said Tuesday, Garrett, or Monday?
So Kyle and I have already kind of pre-planned Tuesday at this point, but I'm not sure yet. We're not. I will let you know as soon as we got that.
There you go. All right. Well, you may see you Tuesday. If not, we'll see you Wednesday back here for our CNC Live Hangout with Lainey Shaughnessy at 8 p.m.
Yep.
All right.
Lainey's a good guy.
Bye.
All right.